Hello, and welcome back to another video. If you're looking for recommendations on what manhwa to read, then here are some that I've read recently that might be of interest. Manhwa titles are timestamped in the video for your convenience. Our first manhwa for today is Teenage Mercenary, a modern manhwa that I've currently read up to chapter 224 on. Its main character is Yu Jin, an individual who, due to a plane crash, loses his memories and lives a very harsh life from a young age, before he's able to regain them. Once he does, though, he immediately finds a way to reunite with what family he has left, a grandpa and a little sister. Surprised to even see that Ijin is alive, his family welcomes him back with open arms. This, of course, isn't the end of it, as Ijin gets tied up in a lot of different events and situations that utilizes the skills that he acquired when still not remembering his memories. From his current present to the past that he lived, Ijin and his family will be wrapped up in a whole lot of tense situations as we discover things about Ijin. The story is 10 out of 10. A moderate pace with slowly escalating stakes, I've really enjoyed being slowly introduced to both Ijin's present and past. It never overloads the amount of information you require to understand the situation that Ijin finds himself in. You might think it would actually end once the local situation is resolved, but it's able to keep the plot going in interesting but not confusing ways. Have to say right now, Ijin's past is complicated, but also simple. The characters are 9 out of 10. From past allies and enemies, loving set of family members, to a great group of like-aged friends, albeit in various different situations, you will find yourself attached at the bare minimum to at least two of these various characters. I know that at least compared to a lot of other manhwas, most, if not all of these characters are memorable. The art is 10 out of 10. If it wasn't already apparent, I've really enjoyed reading through Teenage Mercenary. It has a flexible art style that's able to present both softer and emotional moments, but really hammer down and shows impressive action sequences from ranged combat to melee or close quarters. It's a satisfying action one indeed. So if you're a fan of modern action manhwas and don't like any fantasy tropes being mixed in, but with a main character that is quite the effective combat specialist, almost like a John Wick style character, then Teenage Mercenary would be a good one to take a look at. This next manhwa to check out is I Listened to My Husband and Brought in a Lover, a romance manhwa that I've currently read up to chapter 65 on. Its protagonist is Luis, a person laden with debt that chose to marry a rich commoner to absolve herself of her family's debt. At first, everything seemed okay and things were moving smoothly. However, after some time, her husband was having open relationships with other women, which caused Louise to be quite disheartened. Even her husband said it was okay for her to take a lover, which, even though a little nervous, she tries to follow through. Successfully too, if I may add. But now, it seems that she has just involved herself in something quite bigger than what she originally thought. You might even say she's in way over her head. The story is 8 out of 10. What you would usually consider a typical romantic fantasy story with different initial setup, this one takes a little bit more of an interesting turn. Without trying to spoil too much, Louise and her new lover are more than meets the eye. Honestly, it took me quite a bit off guard when I read through it myself. The characters are 5 out of 10. For almost the exact same reason that I find the story to be a little interesting, I find the characters to be completely confusing as to how some of them get into the situation they are in considering their backgrounds. While yes, I know it's supposed to be a romantic story, it's not enough to make me not question their sanity. The art is 7 out of 10. Considering the standard parts that people look for in a romantic fantasy, it dots all the I's and crosses all the T's, plus some tangents that, depending on your particular taste, may improve or worsen your opinion of the overall work. That's for you to read and decide. So if you're a fan of romantic fantasy genres in which the initial introduction is quite routine at this point, but sometime later the course of the story completely changes, for better or for worse, with elements of the Frostflower Knight from my previous videos, then try I Listened to My Husband and Brought in a Lover. Regressing as the reincarnated bastard of the Sword Clan is the name of our next manhwa. It's a regression manhwa that I've currently read up to chapter 37 on. Theo Ragnar is the name of its main character. He's known as the imbecile of the mighty Ragnar family, a family known for their strength and ruthlessness. Due to the constant power struggle internally, Theo, his mother, and the ones who served them in the Rose Palace were killed for reasons unknown by members who were part of the Ragnar clan. Theo's consolation, though, is that he unlocks an ability that sends him back into the past with added benefits. With a game like Windows now in front of him that help him grow in strength, Theo looks to grow more powerful to take revenge and uncover the threats that took both his and his family's first life. The story is 9 out of 10. What starts as the typical action regression manhwa in a fantasy setting actually has interesting development to it. It leaves barely enough time to breathe as the pacing is quite fast for the genre in my opinion. It's able to establish Theo's backstory, goals, and way to achieve them in due course. The following chapters bends the story in unassuming ways which leaves me very much interested. The characters are 7 out of 10. Given the cast is centered around Theo, his family and those of the Ragnar clan, at least initially, who are major players, are introduced quite quickly. This mystery of which ones are going to actually be important down the road helps the engagement of the overall manhwa. The art is 8 out of 10. With a great display of brutality of combat in a fantasy world, the manhwa does not pull any punches with regards to the viciousness and gore that comes with the reputation of being ruthless. Even Theo himself will showcase that prowess and ruthless nature once given the chance. So if you're a fan of action regression manhwas that have the main character grow from the very bottom of the power scales with the help of interesting systems but seems to have more to it down the road from early chapters, then Regressing as the reincarnated bastard of the Sword Clan warrants your attention. Our next manhwa to look over is I Don't Know the Original, I'm Busy Making a Living, a reincarnation manhwa that I've currently read up to chapter 29 on. The focus of this story is on Penelope, the wife of a noble lord who realizes that she reincarnated into a novel from her previous life after her husband passed away. With no kids, the responsibility of the territory falls upon Penelope, and the situation is dire. Winter is coming and the finances of the land is very minimal, and so she puts her sleeves up and focuses on the efforts required to ensure the survival and prosperity of the people that she's now responsible for, which in turn ends up grabbing the attention of multiple individuals who were part of that original novel. The potential is 7 out of 10. Penelope's focus is very much on the reality of the situation given to her. Considering that she has the memories of a past life now, it's noble of her to take her responsibility seriously and prioritize the residents of the land. At the same time, considering the background that this is a romantic fantasy, be prepared for it to get a little bit more complicated as Penelope will have to deal with some of the after effects of said novel. The art is also 7 out of 10. With pretty characters that come with the genre at this point, this manhwa doesn't have any particular strengths or weaknesses. I'm interested to see if it's able to do anything that will catch my eye, otherwise it's just a solid entry into the genre art-wise. So if you're a fan of romantic fantasy manhwas and enjoy reading newer stories that don't have a large amount of chapters just yet, then I Don't Know the Original, I'm Busy Making a Living might be worth a look. Another week, another highlight. For those unaware, this is the section of the video I update impressions for manhwa that I've previously covered. Today's highlight is The Constellations Are My Disciples, which I've now read up to chapter 104 on. Info card and description will have links to my original opinion. Kim Joo-hyuk, who of course is a reborn Kim Hyo-no, has been continuing to terrorize those that seek to eliminate the current world that he lives in. He doesn't do it out of a sense of judgment or justice or anything. Honestly, it's more of a lazy / he wants to just chill and relax while letting out some of the steam when he wants to. But there are things in the way. Of course, he isn't alone, as he has been able to recruit a number of particularly influential individuals due to the fact that the constellations they are contracted to are Joo-hyuk's disciples, or those that revere him. This, however, doesn't answer some of the mystery as to how or why those disciples became constellations, and why is it that Hyono has been reborn as Juhyuk and the world is in danger once again. My previous scores for this manhwa were 8 out of 10 for characters and 7 out of 10 for story and art. The characters stay the same at 8 out of 10 as my personal interest so far has been those constellation disciples of Juhyuk, and it's been able to slowly give some more character development to them, albeit they're a little bit unique, to be quite honest. The story goes down 1 point from 7 out of 10 to 6 out of 10, as due to the time to develop more of these characters, both disciple constellations and new ones from this life, it results in a slower paced manhwa overall. And the fact that it's taken close to 100 chapters to actually develop the story further compared to the beginning, it leaves something to be desired. The art goes up 1 point from 7 out of 10 to 8 out of 10 for the fact that it's been able to display the uniqueness of the various individuals that Juhyuk has gotten himself involved with. If you include that the overbearing power that Juhyuk possesses is still shown here and there when the focus is back on him, the art continues to deliver its action promises. The Constellations Are My Disciples has been an interesting one to continue reading. It's one of the rare manhwas that has me more curious about the side characters rather than the protagonist, but overall, it's a decent fantasy action manhwa if you're a fan of the genre. Would you agree, or would you not? Comment down below your thoughts on The Constellations Are My Disciples. And that wraps up this week's episode. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy the content, and write down in the comment section down below what manhwa you've been reading, as I might just take a look. Till next time though, have a good read.